Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely stream deck. For more information about the stream deck, the link is in the description below.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Apex Online Racing YouTube channel, where today we have round 10 of season 15 from the AOR Project Cars 2 GT3 Tier 1 League. My name is Yorkie065, aka Matt York. I am your commentator here for this evening, which would have been the final race of the season. However, we are rerunning one of the rounds, so this is going to be the penultimate round that we have here. We are at Indianapolis road course here in USA, and this is going to be a 90-minute race that the drivers are doing. Everyone's just loaded into a 5-minute practice session here, just to basically get everything sorted, double check all their settings and everything, make sure it's all working before we actually go with the actual race session. But as mentioned, it's going to be a 90-minute race with some mixed conditions forecasted as well. It's due to start off pretty clear as it is here in this practice session. And then some rain is forecasted for about midway through. What should I say, about a third of it? Yeah, about midway through. And then it's due to go back to back towards some hazy, kind of drier conditions. So be interesting to see how the strategy and everything will end up playing out with all that, because obviously drivers may need to do 2 pit stops depending on their strategy that they want to go for after the track starts to dry up when the rain finishes. 22 drivers in at the moment. Hopefully 3 drivers who were there in the lobby can get back in, but I don't think they can by the looks of things. We're currently watching Andrex here at the moment, who's circulating around. He is the current championship leader, so if I bring up the standings here, you can see the current championship standings. Just ignore the all the DNSs and everything that's there in the final round 12 column, and instead just look at the points. You can see that he is leading the way with 326 points in total. He's 37 points ahead of Inky Chris, and then Strongest Avenger is just 2 points behind Inky Chris. So it's pretty close there at the top, considering it's 50 points for a race win. So yeah, the guys are fairly close. The championship is still very much open, and it's pretty much Andrex's championship to lose at this point, which is quite baffling to him, considering he was not expecting to be in this kind of position at all coming here into the season. Obviously, as the season's gone on, we've picked up some new drivers as well, a number of them very, very quick, such as this man here, Lumi, coming through turns 1 and 2 in his Lamborghini. He has provided some very good, strong pace over the course of the last couple of rounds, and he'll be looking to display some of that pace here in this round 10 as well. One other thing to note with this race that is very, very important is the fact that the grid for this race is going to be in reverse championship standing. So Andrex will be starting at the very back of the grid with Inky Chris just in front of him, and Strongest Avenger will be starting in 3rd to last position. Drivers such as Lumi, who is doing a bit of grass cutting at the moment, he is a little bit. He's going to be further up the field, much closer to the front. But actually, just looking through, he's had P1 and a P2 as his results from the 2 rounds that he has been present at, and is therefore going to be starting in 12th position in the midst of the mid-pack, along with a few other drivers as well. So he'll be one to certainly keep an eye out as he makes his way through the field. There is Strongest Avenger. Just in front of him in the Z4 is Inky Chris. We just come to the end of this 5-minute practice session before we advance on to the race session. So at the moment, the drivers do 1 minute 24.1 as their times, 24.2. So low to mid 24s is what we're going to be expecting of the drivers here in this race session. I'm sure they've probably been running with fuel on board in those last 5 minutes. Hello, Brownski. Be there in the live chat. Welcome to everybody else in the live chat as well. Well, if you could say hi and just confirm everything else is looking all good. I just suddenly realised there that I've had the standings up for quite a while, but hopefully you got a good look at that, have memorised all the standings, and then we'll be good to go here for this session. So everything is just advancing on. 22 drivers there. So let's get on with it. Let's jump straight into this final race here, round 10. Well, shall I say penultimate race, round 10. The AOR Project Cars 2 GT3 League. Drivers just got a 2-minute grace period where they can take the time to double check their settings in terms of their race setup, the strategies that they're going to be using for the race, and it seems like we've unfortunately lost one person in the advancement to this race lobby. But once this 2-minute grace period is actually up, the drivers will get themselves formed into their actual proper grid starting order, so you have to bear with us whilst they organise that, and then we'll be getting underway with the round here. So let's talk about the circuit whilst we're just waiting for the drivers to get themselves ready. Total of 14 turns, 2.6 miles in length, 4.19 kilometers in total, and as we saw from the practice session, the drivers should be in and around the 1 minute 24s during the dry running. Obviously things are going to slow down a little bit when it comes to the wet. It's going to be pretty manic with the wet weather conditions, some puddles forming in a number of places. And then yeah, Andrex was highlighting to me that once they get through the wet weather and the rain stops and we start to come to the dry conditions, or the drier conditions, that's when the pit strategies are going to become very interesting, as you lose 40 odd seconds going into the pit lane to change the tyres, and apparently the slick tyres, if they do change to the slicks after the rain has stopped and the track starts drying out, they'll most likely go to the soft slicks. But the last few turns can be pretty treacherous, apparently, especially the final corner. So the drivers will be needing to keep an eye out for that. But then, on the contrary to that, they don't make the stop and stay out on the wet tyres. The wets do wear down and degrade quite heavily, and the last 4 to 5 laps were quite difficult, apparently, on the wet tyres. A number of drivers obviously struggling in the much drier conditions. So just seen here the field part to either side of the track, and the guys are now just forming themselves up into their correct starting grid positions versus those coming down the start finish straight down towards turn 1 is Crab in his yellow and black Lamborghini. Tikanash is going to be there starting in P2 by the looks of things. Clank starting in 3rd position in the white Ferrari 488 GT3 that's just going through the picture there. There is Fatworm. He's going to be starting in 4th position. He goes on through. Then got Sean Neves. He is going to be starting in 5th place, with Subconan starting in 6th position. Godfather of Shift will then be starting in 7th place, with Otto Winkler should actually be ahead of him, so Otto Winkler should be in 7th, Godfather of Shift I think should be in 8th place. Then there's Trip, he's starting in around P9. We've got Mr. Zach, he's going to be starting in P10. Starting in P11 will be Stephen Curry, but he's currently reading out the positions, I believe, for all the drivers, making sure they're formed up in the correct standing grid order. So As Turbo will probably be starting in 12 with Lumi starting in P13. There's Dynamite Alive, another very fast driver who's picked up a 3rd position and a 1st in the 2 races that he's done in the last 2 rounds. So he'll be looking for a good strong result. He'll be chasing Lumi through the field. There is WMDR Martin, our pad driver, here in Tier 1. Got the windscreen wiper going, as he always does. There is Speedy Go, the lemon Lamborghini with the blue accent. There is Yogurt with the other lemon Lamborghini with the green accents. There is Alan going towards the back of the field. Then there's Inky Chris. Then Strongest Avenger. Andrex there at the back. And then I'm going to assume that this is Stephen Curry, our lead coordinator, because he's starting here at the back. And yeah, that name I cannot pronounce. It also looks like the livery that Stephen Curry actually uses as well on his Lamborghini, so he should be passing on through. Indeed he is. So Stefan's forming up into his proper position, which I believe should be P11. A few drivers are starting to roll already. Crab will probably need to start to slow things down as he comes up to the formation point just here. Exactly what he's doing. So the drivers will now form up in the 2x2 formation. And Curry should be in and around the position that he's actually looking for, but he's got 3 cars 3 wide up in front of him, which will probably be a little bit daunting and confusing. Hopefully the guys can sort themselves out fairly quickly. Crab leading the field at the moment, ready for this penultimate round here. Nash there in P2. Drivers all settling in. Get ready and sorted. Pathos. That's unfortunate to see you haven't made it to the grid. Trying to sort the internet out there. Here we go. Drivers in their 2x2 formation rolling down towards the acceleration zone. We are underway racing with the penultimate round here. A number of drivers with their lights on, some with their lights off. Crab has decided to go early, and Clank has immediately gained a position, slipped up into P2. Tikanash is going to try and look down the inside coming into turn 1, but not close enough to do so. So they follow through the first few turns at the moment. Things are looking pretty good without too much contact. I can see Stephen Curry dropping down a few positions. He's dropped down into 16th place from the guys up in front. Got 90 minutes of racing here, total of 62 racing laps, so the drivers need to settle themselves in as they go through the chicane there. A couple of drivers running out a little bit wide. That's Turbo trying to gain some positions, almost going 3 wide here with WMDR Martin and Yorguk. Mr. Zach is just up in front in the Porsche 911. Yorguk looking down the inside of Turbo and managed to make the move coming into turn 7 there. Oh, that looked like a bit of a spinner there. Who was that going off to the side? That's Godfather of Shift in his Porsche 911. He recovers back to the tail end of the field. So he's not completely out of it at the moment, but at the head is Crab. He's pulling away, got a second over Clank at the moment as they filter through the last few turns. It's all about this pack here that is getting busy at the moment. Let's jump on board with Speedy Go. On the roof cameras, Godfather of Shift has managed to recover 1 position already, with everyone battling away. Oh, Speedy Go losing the rear end of the cars. We're coming through the last turn. Managed to gather it back up without making contact with any of the walls, but that's dropped him well off the back of the field. As you can see, the gaps disappearing and extending out up ahead. So coming into turn 1, what's going on? Godfather of Shift is looking down the inside of Inky Chris, who's obviously trying to play it relatively safe here at the moment. In this early phase, obviously the championship leaders, the top 3, all battling away for the championship points, don't want to be throwing away potential pool of points here. Strongest Avenger is trying to work his way through the field. He just gained the position on Turbo and pops himself up into 15th place. Andrex is trying to follow him through. Is actually looking to the outside of Strongest Avenger coming into turn 7. Going to be able to do anything there. Alan was having a little bit of a look down the inside of Andrex, but didn't quite make it work. Inky Chris slipping on past Turbo there as he's losing positions ham over fist and ends up losing the position to Godfather of Shift and dropping down into P20 as well, but he will just settle in behind at that position and just go from there, really, for the rest of the race. Mr. Zach losing a position there to Strongest Avenger, who's on the outside coming into the penultimate turn here. Mr. Zach having a slight wiggle, holding up Andrex a little bit. Strongest Avenger was very much out wide, and Strongest was really slow there off the penultimate turn. Coming into the final corner has allowed Andrex to come up along side by side. So this pack here all very close together. We got 3 wide further up through the field as Clank has lost a whole bunch of positions, has dropped down now into P12. It's there on the inside of Stephen Curry, who's just pulled a phenomenal move to gain about 3-4 positions as a couple of cars were parked kind of in and around the mid part of the circuit through turns 1 and 2 there. I think Tick and Nash was involved with that. But yeah, Stephen Curry just taking the outside line, had a clear path through and slipped past 4 or 5 cars completely uninterrupted. He'll be absolutely over the moon with that move there. Getting himself now up into P7. Here's one of our fastest drivers, Lumi. He's managed to get himself now up into 2nd position, so he's starting to push hard and drive away off into the distance. Dynamite Alive is another one. He's still trying to work his way through the field at the moment. He's got Yogurt for company up in front. Yogurt doing a very good job, and Dynamite Alive with the move down the inside coming into turn 12 there. Just about managed to muscle his way past. Yogurt made it very tight, but Dynamite Alive very much placed his car up alongside. He warranted himself the room, pulled off a good move there. He's now straight onto the rear wing of Sean Neves as well as we come down, start finish straight down towards turn 1. He's pulled out the slipstream early, presenting himself and trying to line himself up for the position to try and make the overtake coming here into this first turn. Subconin in the Audi R8 going a little bit defensive, potentially holding himself and Sean Neves up, allowing Dynamite Live to try and come around the outside of turn 2. It's going to give him the inside line coming through turn 3 there into turn 4. He manages to complete the move and get his Lamborghini ahead and up into that final podium position. So he'll be very, very happy with that one and can start to focus on Lumi and Crab, who are up ahead. Lumi, good 2.6 seconds faster than Crab on the previous lap. That is the pace difference between those two drivers, and we can see that's only going to be a matter of time before Lumi gets that race lead, which he does so there going through turn 10. I think Crab pretty much gifted him the position, didn't really put up too much of a fight there, knowing that it's kind of hopeless to try and keep Lumi behind him, so it's better to just let him go on through, avoid any potential risk and run his own race at this point. He's still got quite a long way to go. So Lumi leads Crab, who leads Dynamite Alive by just under 4 seconds. Dynamite Alive has already pulled a second gap to Subconan, who's very much under threat and has got Yogurt there, 2 drivers right. He's going to have the inside line coming in towards turn 1. Will Yogurt be able to nose ahead before we get to the braking zone? It looks like he's managed to do so. Indeed, he does take that 4th position away from the Audi driver. So he's quite nicely made his way on through. Sean Neves, see there in P6. Tick and Nash. He's got Clank for company in P7 and P8. We've got a couple of drivers already into the pit lane. Trip and Inky Chris by the looks of things, and they've got quite a lot of damage. Well, no rear wing for Trip. And Inky Chris had a very heavily damaged front bumper. Speedy Go also into the pit lane very early on as well. This is very interesting. The drivers do have to make a mandatory pit stop here in this race, but due to the length and the fact that the weather conditions will be changing here in this race, there's pretty much a given that everyone's going to be coming into the pit lane anyway. Trip is the first to pull off out of his pit box. Inky Chris is still sat there for the moment. This is hurting his championship title hopes. He's dropping away, but there's still a long way to go here in this race. Got Godfather of Shift ahead of Mr. Zach here by about a second or so. Otto Winkler and As Turbo are battling away for P13 just up in front. And we've got Alan and Fatworm. They're battling away for P11 there. As we can see, Andrex has now managed to get himself up into the top 10 and a bit of clear air. See WMDR Martin up there. He is just having a look down the inside of Clank, I think, coming into turn 1 and 2. It looks like he's managed to pull the position, to move off and gain that position. Fat Worm conceded a position to Alan there as well. I'm just trying to look for Strongest Avenger. There he is down in P18 at the back of the field. It looks like he's managed to avoid picking up any damage for the moment. I don't know if he has actually pitted or not. I had to pick up that he had been into the pit lane. Ninky Chris is now rolling down pit road. He's going to be a long way behind the race leaders. Lumi's coming down towards turn 12 now with a very comfortable 5-second gap to Crab, who is now very much under pressure from Dynamite Alive. He's looking down the inside coming into turn 12. Dynamite Alive looks like he's managed to pull the position off, but Crab is coming back at him slightly on the approach to turn 13, the penultimate turn. But does concede the position and just settles in behind for now. Gilguk will be the next driver to close up and try and take another position away from Crab. We can see, looks like Trip there in amongst the leaders in the race. Obviously a lap down, and indeed it is. It'll be frustrating for him, but at the same time he should be able to run the pace to keep up with with Yorguk just in front of him, and stay away from Sub Conan, who's there in 5th position, but just behind him physically on track. WMDR Martin has now managed to get himself up into P7, having passed Ticker Nash. Now Andrex is all over the back of Clank as they bounce through the curbs, going through that chicane there. Clank placing his car defensive as they're on the run down towards turn 7. Andrex placing himself on the racing line will probably try and sweep it around the outside here, giving plenty of room to the Ferrari driver, who is also giving him plenty of room. They're side by side through turns 8 and 9, very close there to rubbing wheels at the apex. Coming through turn 10, Andrex manages to nose ahead, and Clank concedes the position and settles in behind for the moment. Andrex placing his car a little bit defensive there. Crab has gone and lost a whole bunch of positions, as we can see. He's now down in P8. The last half a lap or so since we flicked away from him, he's lost a good 5 positions there, possibly with a mistake by him. So far everyone keeping their noses clean in terms of driver penalties. Now see Alan is having a look down the inside of Clank as we're on the approach to turn 1, coming into the braking zone just as we get to the 400 marker board, which will be in feet, not meters. Coming through turns 1 and 2, Alan's very much gained that 10th position. Now Andrex is all over the back of Crab just up in front. He's obviously trying to play a conservative game here, try and work his way through the field as cleanly as possible, avoid and minimise as much risk as he possibly can to basically just bring home the points. As you can see, settling in behind Crab there, coming through turns 8 and 9. Lost a fair amount of ground to Crab in doing so. He kind of had the door shut on him there a little bit, but still, he won't let that get to him. As we can see, the sun really starting to drop down towards the horizon, shining right in the eyes of the drivers as they're coming in towards turn 12 there, and likewise coming into the final turn. We do have 10 times time acceleration here in this race, so we'll be racing off into the night. You start to see already some clouds starting to form in the distance as well, as we will be getting rain at some point. We're down in towards turn 1. Oh, we've got Sean Neves there parked at the apex. Is that rain already starting to fall that I can see? It looks like rain droplets. They're going into turn 1 and coming through 3 here and into turn 4. You may not be able to see it on the stream. I'm really making it difficult here for Andrex to slip on through, given like just about enough racing room there. There is a car width, but it's certainly being made tight for Andrex, and he's thinking patience is the better part of valor. And yeah, definitely we can start to see some raindrops falling already here seems quite surprising. I was expecting to be going quite a bit further into the race before we'd see some rain. But that's going to potentially throw some spanner in the works for a number of drivers in terms of the strategy. It all really depends on how quickly the water actually starts to form on the circuit, as Crab gone and outbraked himself there into turn 12. Just about managed to avoid making contact with Nash, but has given up the position now to Andrex. Next is going to be Alan's turn. Try and make the move. Looks like Alan lining himself up with a better run coming through the final corner there. Can he translate that onto this start-finish straight here though? Make the move coming towards turn 1. Swoops out from the slipstream. Having a look to the inside. Again, Crab going a little bit deep, but holds onto the position from now as Alan is very much taking a page out of Andrex's book and is playing the more patient game, although having said that, comes very, very close to the rear end of the Lamborghini in front of him. Manages to avoid making contact, but that was awfully close there. That's Crab running out a little bit wide. A flash of lights there from Alan, obviously saying that he wants to get past as soon as he possibly can. There goes Andrex down the inside of Nash. Oh, contact there between Crab and Alan. Alan was very much there at the apex on the inside, and then Crab just swooped in, probably not quite realising that Alan was actually there, and the two of them made contact. Hopefully no damage was picked up for either of the two drivers. Alan's obviously gained the position in doing that, hasn't really lost too much time. It's more Crab who's the one who's come off worse there in that little bump and confrontation. Looked like he also jumped across the inside of the apex of turn 12 there as well. And Godfather has shifted. He's now taking a position away from Clank, who's had a spin there coming through turn 13. We can see him in the background. He recovers back onto the circuit down in P17. I wonder if the this rain starting to fall is starting to impact in terms of the grip levels already. This will be interesting to see. It's only really when we start to see spray coming off the cars will the drivers really need to be concerned about the slick tyres and switching onto a set of wets. Ass Turbo still following Godfather a shift at the moment. He's obviously making his race recovery, having been down in second to last position at one stage in the race, now up into P11. Obviously a few drivers have made their pit stops, but obviously they're also working their way through the field as well. You see Sean Neves here, who was parked on the outside of turn 1 earlier on, outbraked himself, rejoined onto the track down in P12. And Strongest Avenger, currently third in the championship standings, in 13th position at the moment. Seems like he's been struggling to work his way through the field. I believe his lap time was alright, faster than the drivers around him, but obviously nowhere near the pace of the race leaders in the top 3. Stephen Curry finds himself now down in P14 after his magnificent move that we saw in turns 1 and 2. It looks like he's got a bit of damage on the left-hand side of his car, I think. It looked like he had a couple of scrapes down the door and the side panels there, as we've got Batworm and Otto Winkler going toe-to-toe, coming in through turns 1 and 2. Otto Winkler having a look down the inside, but wasn't quite able to do anything with it there. Batworm holds on to the position for the moment. Coming into turn 4, taking a very defensive line. Could potentially hurt his exit, but seems to be unscathed for the moment. Gone away with that. Now Otto Winkler's having a look down the inside, coming in towards turn 7. Fatworm giving him the racing room, letting the Porsche run a little bit deep as they get to the apex, trying to go for the switchback. Hasn't been able to get the drive and the momentum off the corner to be able to pull up alongside. They're just playing it cautious here in the conditions. Here is Mr. Zach. He has dived into the pit lane. Potentially the first driver to be hopping onto a set of wet tyres. Looks like he's actually been serviced already is running back down the pit road. Thanks now onto the back of Fat Worm. There we can see WMDR Martin paired as ever with the windscreen wiper, always going just in case it does rain. It certainly seems that here in this race the windscreen wiper is coming into use. Seems like in some parts of the circuit rain isn't quite as heavy as others. That's actually right on board with WMDR Martin. He's just trying to chase down Sub Conan here in front of him. He's been doing an absolutely fantastic job with the pad here in this season. He's currently P8 in the championship standings as well, so been doing a very solid job there, trying to score as many points as he possibly can in a field of wheel drivers, certainly showing what a good pad driver is capable of. This guy is looking very nice and dramatic there with the sun disappearing off behind the horizon. See, riding into the night now. This trip is into the pit lane once again. No doubt he'll be hopping onto the wet tyres here with this rain falling. I'm into the braking zone for turn 1. Again, WMDR Martin closing up a little bit, coming through the apexes here. First few turns. Will he be close enough to try and make a move coming into the next heavy braking zone of turn 7? Coming through 5 and 6 now. Still chicane. WMDR Martin though is a few car lengths off the back of Sub Conan, and it probably isn't going to be close enough to try and make a move. Jump to Strongest Avenger trying to find a way past Crab at the moment as they're making their way through the chicane now. Strongest starting to pick up the pace a little bit, but obviously working his way through the traffic as well as being held back from his true potential. Looks like he's got some damage down that left side of his Acura as well. A few scuffs there. They've closed right up onto the back of As Turbo, so we've got a potentially a 4-way fight in the moment with Tick and Nash at the head of the field. Oh, Strongest Avenger making contact with the wall, and also Crab in the braking zone there. Just misjudged that one. Flash of the lights to say sorry as Sub Conan's into the pits. Crab now diving into the pit lane as well. Him anticipating that it's probably the best time to make the switch to the wet tyres. I imagine those who are planning on trying to make the wet tyres last as long as possible are going to be staying out as long as they possibly can before making the switch. Stephen Curry is now into the pit lane for a fresh set of boots as well. Otto Winkler is also dived into the pit lane there with his Porsche, so mechanics will now get to work on his car. There is Dick and Ash. You can see As Turbo's managed to get past in the first few turns. Runs up wide there in the exit of turn 6 at the chicane. Strongest Avenger continuing to hunt down. Yeah, very much agree with you there, Brownski. I think it's a little bit too early, although it's quite clear that some drivers are struggling with the tyres. Dick and Ash there just about managing to gather the car back up before going into a proper spin. But he's conceded the position to Strongest Avenger, who's now up into P8. Andrax is now going to be diving into the pit lane. He's got WMDR Martin there just up in front of him as well, who's taking it fairly slow coming into the pit speed limiter zone. Yorgok's all into the pit lane, so is Lumi, so I think this is pretty much the final chance for a lot of the drivers. As Turbo and Strongest Avenger into the pit lane, so everybody is coming in. Lumi was at the head of the field, so he should be the first driver to get released from his pit crew. Obviously taking on the fuel that he needs. He's back out onto pit road and rolling down the pit lane. Dynamite alive. He looks like he may have picked up the fuel that he needs. Indeed he has. So he's now rolling down pit road as well. Yogurt also there. Drivers seem fairly close to one another at the moment, but obviously as they get let off the pit speed limiter line, the gaps will start to open up once again. So there goes Dynamite Alive, now accelerating away, and there goes Yogurt. So there's going to be a couple of seconds between the pair of them. Alan has now got a penalty. That's a 10-second penalty for that, so that'll be for speeding in the pit lane. So not quite getting the pit speed limiter engaged at the right time. It looks like Andrex has managed to jump WMDR Martin in the pit lane there as well. I think Martin may have taken on fuel there in that pit stop, so some drivers may potentially be thinking of jumping back onto the slick tyres later on when the conditions start to dry out, and opting to go for fuel there in that stop instead of doing it either entirely here or splitting the fuel load across the 2 pit stops. Andrex is now up into 5th. Plank is up there into 7th position. The Strongest Avenger now up into 8th. They're ahead of As Turbo. That looked like Speedy Go was there just behind, and indeed it is, but he seems to be a lap down. Speedy Go, although, is already up to speed on the tyres, it seems, where Strongest Avenger's still trying to find his footing at the moment. Strongest doesn't want to get caught up with a battle here as Clank is off the circuit and across the road there. This could be Strongest Avenger's opportunity to take 7th position, and indeed it is. He takes that as he goes through turn 10, now coming through turn 11 and into the braking zone of turn 12. You can certainly see with the rain starting to fall, the track is definitely getting wetter. And the conditions, again, quite a bit more tricky. We can see Tikanash here all over the back of As Turbo, although ran a little bit deep there through turn 13, which is going to bring Godfather of Shift up onto the rear of the Audi driver, who seems to be really struggling for traction through the final corner. Godfather of Shift with a much better run manages to gain the position, takes that one away from him before they get to the braking zone for the first corner. Porsche should do well in these conditions with the engine being so far back towards the rear of the car. Certainly help with the traction. Oh, that was As Turbo who's had a spin there going through turn 4. Drivers managed to avoid him. He's now rejoining back onto the circuit. Pretty safe manner. Doesn't impede Sean Neves there. Other than maybe not allowing Sean Neves to open up the chicane quite as much as he liked. That was good of As Turbo to avoid impeding anyone else. Clank is into the pit lane again, so possibly picked up the wrong tyres there in his pit stop. See that Inky Chris has actually retired from this race, down to 19 drivers. We've also lost one other driver as well. I think that other driver might be Crab. I don't see him there in the standings at all, so I think Inky Chris and Crab have retired, disconnected from the race. So seeing Speedy Go unlapping himself from, actually no, that's a passable position there with Mr. Zach, bringing himself back up into 17th place. So now the question is, who's going to be quickest, or who has the pace on the wet tyres? Main 2 drivers that I'm trying to keep an eye on are this man here, Strongest Avenger, and Andrex in his Audi R8, now up there in P4. Obviously Lumi, Dynamite Alive and Yogurt certainly have some very strong pace, and as you can see, Lumi doing a mid 131 there, setting the pace here in these wet conditions. And the lap time as Dynamite Alive got on his bag as he comes to the start finish line now. Low to mid 32, and then Yogurt going to be coming across the line. He did a 35 on the previous lap, 33.7 this time round, so 0.4 of a second or so loss from that. But Andrex, he's coming to the start-finish line to begin lap 20 for himself. Goes in with a low 32. In fact, an identical lap time to Dynamite Alive up in front. BMDR Martin, his Lamborghini, comes across the start-finish line now. Mid 33 for him, Strongest Avenger with a high 33, so he's losing time to, or he lost time to Andrex there on that previous lap. Needs to be finishing up ahead of Andrex. Been trying to take away as many points from him as possible. He's in third position in the overall championship standings, is Strongest Avenger. He's 39 points off the back of Andrex. And at this, if things were to finish as they are now, Strongest Avenger would lose a bunch more points to Andrex and near enough be handing the championship to Andrex, barring any major incidents in the final round that we'll be doing, which is the rerun of round 7 Azure Circuit. We unfortunately had a mass disconnection before we got to the halfway mark in the race. So As Turbo closed up onto the back of Sean Neves after his spin and recovering. Closest battle on the circuit at the moment, as things have strung out quite a bit with the rain having fallen and the drivers making pit stops. Sean Neves going a little bit defensive there coming into turn 12. Really lost too much time, As Turbo. Struggling to see in the spray of the Lamborghini here. Both drivers really trying to open up the final corner as much as they possibly can to try and carry as much speed, try and keep themselves as full throttle as they possibly can do. As Turbo just peeling out of the spray coming in towards turn 1. You can see a little bit of a dry line there as they come into the first corner. Obviously, with them having laid down a bunch of rubber in the opening 10 to 15 laps, will make the usual dry line a little bit more slippery with this rain falling, as the water will sit on top and make the rubber that is embedded there into the circuit. They'll be getting a little bit slippery there, but still, if it's the drier part of the circuit as well, that will be the fastest way. And of course, the dry racing line tends to typically be the shorter and fastest way around the track anyway. So drivers will probably end up sticking as close to it as they possibly can. That's Turbo closing up quite nicely there through turns 8, 9, and 10. I think he's quite close enough to be trying to make a move coming into turn 12, and Sean Neves once again places his car defensively to the inside just to cover off any potential move from As Turbo, who's sitting very patient at the moment, happy to follow the Lamborghini around the circuit until he finds a much more appropriate time to try and go for the move. We're going to have the slipstream here coming down the start-finish straight. I think, oh, excuse me, Mr. Zach has lost or disconnected from the race, or retired. As yeah, Otto Winkler is still going around in 12th position, so yeah, it's Mr. Zach who I saw in the pit lane there. As Turbo did get fairly close to the back of Sean Neves, but had to check up a little bit coming into turn 4. Mr. Avenger is now onto the back of WMDR Martin. Going to be a critical pass 4 position. As the previous lap, Andrex actually lost 2 seconds to Strongest Avenger. Gap seems to be about 14 odd seconds or so between the two of them at the moment. It's a reasonable distance. Strongest Avenger getting caught up a little bit there behind As Turbo going through the penultimate turn. Not going to be anywhere near close enough for a move coming into the first corner. And the 21s earlier on would probably have been from the drier running earlier. Oh, you're talking about the number of drivers. Yeah, we did start off with 22 in total. We've now dropped down into 18. Mr. Zach, Crab, and Inky Chris have all retired. May have lost one other driver as well. Actually, no, we had 22 in the practice session, 21 when it came to the grid. So we have lost 3 so far. I think 2 retirees, possibly 1 disconnect. It's really unfortunate for Inky Chris, considering he would have obviously been pushing to try and get the most out of the championship here. Top 20 positions all scored points, so even if he did press on and actually make it to the end of the race, he would have scored points and potentially kept his championship hopes somewhat alive for the final race. But obviously it would have taken him very much out of the running for actually taking the championship under usual racing circumstances. Unless Andrex has something major here. Here we go, Strongest Avenger being forced to the outside by WMDR Martin, coming down towards turn 1. Will he be able to pull the move off under braking and coming into the apex? He just about leaves enough room at the inside there. Strongest Avenger takes that position away and slots himself now up into 6th place. See, he's 8 seconds off the back of Alan at the moment. So he's got quite a bit of work to close up onto the back of him, but Alan does have a 10-second penalty. Indeed, it is still 10 seconds. That would have been from speeding in the pit lane, as he pointed out earlier on. Stephen Curry here, and Otto Winkler battling away for P12. I think that might have been Stephen Curry taking that position away from the Porsche driver. Slips on through. Otto drops down a position. We've got Trip and Clank fairly close to one another as well. We can see the second and a half between the two of them. Trip there sat at the back of Alan, being a lap down. Still seems like there's a bit of a dry-ish line, so let's jump on board with Lumi, see how dry this circuit actually is. Through into turn 12, looking quite wet. It doesn't seem like there's any really obvious dry spots. Really short shifting. Coming onto the start-finish straight. Pretty sure there's a drier line down the left side of the grid here. It only looks a little bit less reflective than the rest, and yeah, there it is. The driver's obviously trying to maintain that that dry line somewhat, much as possible, which will help them out later on. Through the first few turns, rain is continuing to fall. See the odd puddles starting to form here and there as well. There's a bit of a river, the entrance to turn 4, and also on the exit of turn 4, span the width of the circuit. Obviously, as the rain continues to fall, the water will build up on the surface of the track. That puddle will get larger as the race goes on. And yeah, Andrex hasn't quite sealed the championship as of yet. Obviously, things were to finish the way that they are now, Andrex will extend his lead to Strongest Avenger, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's sealed it, because if there's any major drama for Andrex in the final race, guarantees him not scoring any points. There is the potential for Strongest Avenger to take the championship win from him. Vinky Chris having retired from the race, he is now out of the championship running. Well, that is unless Strongest Avenger and Andrex don't score any points here in this race. If that's the case, then the championship very much be kept alive. Let's jump back to the battles. Otto Winkler and Stephen Curry fairly close to one another still. WMDR Martin looks like he's still holding on to the back of Strongest Avenger, but is it close enough to make a move? Oh, that's Stephen Curry going round there. Otto Winkler gone deep in turn 4, trying to take avoiding action. He's way deep into that very heavy gravel trap that's out there. You can see the car really bogged down and struggled to get through the turn, and he's actually conceded the position again to Stephen Curry, who managed to recover and get back onto the back underway fairly quick. Obviously they lost the positions to As Turbo and Fatworm. Actually, I think they were already behind As Turbo. Certainly lost the position to Fatworm. I know that he was reasonably close to the back of those two. Oh, again, Stephen Curry really struggling with the rear end of the car. Just a little bit too much power come out the exit of turn 10, potentially overheating the tyres, so he needs to wander away from the racing line to find some of the water and try and cool the tyres off. That will certainly help with the grip levels. Either that or it just needs to be a little bit more cautious with the loud pedal in these slower speed corners. Oh, you can see he's really struggling with understeer coming through the final turn. He had to lift out the throttle a little bit there. The car was just skating wide. Need to venture a little bit further offline to find a little bit more water to try and cool those tyres down. And there, as it seemed like he was very much trying to stick to the dry line as much as possible, which obviously is good. It's where the grip is. It's where the lap times will come from. But at the same time, the wet tyres do not like quite a lot of heat, and that will cost you the grip, which we're really seeing here. This is Jorgert that's coming up behind him. We'll be putting him a lap down. This is a flash of lights there from Stephen Curry to say, I'm going to let you pass here on this straight. He lifts out of the throttle a little bit and lets the other Lamborghini driver go past. Clank and Speedy going at it for the final positions here in this race. Or who is trying to overtake who here? Speedy Go at the moment is on the back of Clank. Usually Speedy Go has the pace over the Ferrari driver in front of him. I think this is Speedy Go trying to take the position away from Clank, considering the previous lap as well. Took a good 0.7 of a second out of him. Having a little bit of a look there coming into turn 7, not really doing anything with it for the moment, as Clank just holds his line for now. Oh, running a little bit deep there, braking just a little bit too late. Sent him skating straight on, and it's going to cost him a whole bunch of car lengths. Now this is interesting. Strongest Avenger has managed to close up onto the back of Alan. Alan's been struggling here in these wetter conditions, as he's lost a whole bunch of ground to Andrex. You see there on the previous lap, 2 seconds between the pair of them. And then just trying to find a bit of water, trying to cool down the tyres. Strongest Avenger seems to be fairly comfortable running on the racing line at the moment. We've got Trip just up ahead, who's a lap down as well. Yeah, that certainly seemed like some scuffs there on the side of Strongest Avenger's car. they go on through turns 5 and 6. We're coming up towards the halfway mark here in this race. A few more laps before we reach that. It'll be interesting to see how long this rain will actually last. What it's going to do for the drier conditions later on. Slowly see that Strongest Avenger is really starting to apply the pressure in the corners. You saw he's 6 seconds off his previous fastest, but of course his previous fastest lap time would have been set in the dry. Jump down to the front splitter of the Acura. Lost a bit of ground there coming through the final turn. It seems that Strongest Avenger keeps going a little bit deep, which really seems to be hurting his run here onto the start-finish straight and hampering any possibility of trying to make a move coming into turn 1. He doesn't want to lose too much time here, battling away with Alan, because he wants to be hunted down and try and catch up with Andrex, which is also what we would be wanting to see. But at the same time, Strongest Avenger could be just trying to look after the wet tyres here, take too much life out of them and keep them in good shape later on in the race. Small dab of the brake there from Alan coming through the chicane. Go down and back straight, now into turn 7, dropping it down into second gear. Nice, smooth, steady. Through 8 and 9, and then into turn 10. Really seems like that's Strongest Avenger's strong point, going through those sequence of turns. Just needs to have a better run coming through and into turn 13. Be outbraking himself and going a little bit deep a number of times. That would look much better that time round. But this could be him much closer in with a potential chance here. But there is still a few good car lengths between himself and the Mercedes in front. The Mercedes does have a good set of legs underneath it for the long straights. I think Strongest Avenger is probably also running a higher downforce setup, which is probably allowing him to really find the time in the corners, especially in these conditions. Well, of course, the added drag on the straights won't be helping that. Come through turns 4 into 5 and 6. Nice smooth lines, not really troubling the exit curve all that much. Otto Winkler and Stephen Curry still battling away. They swapped positions since we last saw them, but they're pretty equal in terms of lap time. Bit of damage there at the front of Otto Winkler's car, so a bit of damage side of Stephen Curry's car as well. I think that might be Andrex in the background that's coming up to lap these guys. Indeed it is. Stephen Curry could be getting a pretty good run here off the exit of the final turn. Going to be a strag race, Lamborghini versus Porsche. If anything is to go by from the rest of the season, the Lamborghini tends to have the better straight line speed. He's on the inside line coming down towards turn 1. Is he going to be able to make the move under braking and at the apex? Plenty of room given between the two drivers, and Stephen Curry does recover that 13th position for now and slots himself ahead of Otto Winkler. Tried to hold it around the outside but didn't put up too much of a fight there. As now is it getting out the way of Andrex with the blue flags. Let's jump to Alan, Strongest Avenger again, pretty close coming through turns 1, 2, now into turn 3, then into the braking zone for turn 4. Strongest Avenger having a little bit of a look down the inside of Alan, but wasn't close enough to put his nose in and warrant the room at the apex. Awful lot of spray being kicked up off the car in front. Trip is still lurking there just in front of these two, as well as Alan's gone a little bit deep. This could be Strongest Avenger's chance if he can get a good run coming through turns 8 and 9 here. Slowly opened himself up for turn 8 a lot better. Just needs to nail turn 10. Car trying to break away from him though, going through the mid corner, which cost him the momentum coming off the turn. Just dropped him back a few car lengths. And thank you very much for tuning in, Brownski. Good to see you once again. You enjoy work tomorrow as much as you possibly can. Have a good one, mate. Coming back to the action. Still see there's a bit of a dry-ish line in and around a couple of places, especially here coming down this start-finish straight. Should be nice for a number of drivers. Andrew's quite slow on the previous lap, but he did have some lap traffic to contend with. Strongest Avenger. Carl breaking away from him a little bit there at the apex, and then just as he was coming off the exit of the turn, transition into turn 2, found the light track puddle. Forced the car to slide just that little bit more. Drivers really need to be careful of that. Puddles are really starting to form here on the circuit now. See, there's a bit of a puddle forming there across the width of the circuit going through turn 7. Do have to say, looks absolutely fantastic here in the night and wet conditions with the reflections of the lights off the surface of the track. So they're continuing to push on here. So we've gone over the halfway mark now on this race. Oh, Strongest Avenger having a little bit of a scare there through the final corner. It's running out a little bit wide out, touching the grass out there. Sent him out even wider. That's dropped him to over a second and a half off the back of Alan now. Very costly for him. In comparison to Andrak's only really lost 10th of a second. It's quite surprising, if that. But I think Andrak's probably working his way through a little bit more traffic. Yeah, indeed, he's got himself past Stephen Curry now as well. In fact, it's become a three-way fight between Stephen Curry, Otto Winkler and Sub Conan. They've fallen into the clutches of the Audi driver. Certainly seems to be bang on the pace compared to the two guys in front, taking good 2 to 3 seconds on the last lap. In fact, Sub Conan's having a little bit of a look down the inside of Otto Winkler coming into turn 12 there. Otto's gone deep. That's Sub Conan's chance to slip on past, but Otto's going to be there at the inside coming into the penultimate turn. But Sub Conan slams that door shut and takes a position away. Audi driver certainly got a lot more confidence in his car and his ability here in these wetter conditions. Certainly looked a lot more comfortable. Made that overtaking move look pretty easy, as we just saw in the background there. Tripp making contact with the wall. He's down in P16, hunting these guys down up in front. He's now going to let Alan slip on through the lap traffic. But the next driver to come up behind will be Strongest Avenger, who's turned up the wick once again and started to close that gap back down and get it in and around 1 second. Let's return to Sub Conan at the moment, as he's the man on the move in terms of trying to make the positions. Gloomy and Dynamite Alive, fastest drivers on the track in these wet conditions in the 132s. Just feathering their way through turns 8 and 9. Now coming into turn 10. Oh no, Sub Conan's just found a puddle at the apex on the curve there. That spun him round. He's also found himself in very close proximity to the Armco barrier there on the inside. That's a real shame. Oh, there goes Strongest Avenger as well in the same picture. Coming off the exit of turn 10, just a little bit too much. Oh, Otto Winkler also going for a spin. Just about manages to avoid Strongest Avenger there. 3 drivers all spinning in the same part of the track, coming off the exit of the turn. I wonder if they're just caught in catching the puddle that's formed on the inside at the apex curb there. And that is probably what sent them all on round. That was quite interesting and slightly amusing to see, but that's brought Godfather a shift right up towards the rear of Strongest Avenger. Has dropped Strongest well off the back of Andrex, where he would have wanted to be. Oh, hard into the wall for Godfather a shift there. Car just breaking away from him in the final turn. Tried to power slide through and gather it back up. Found himself clobbering the concrete barrier there on the outside. That'll be potentially some damage aero-wise at the front of his car, potentially some suspension damage on the left hand side. He gets out the way of Lumi on the exit of turn 2. Very shortly Lumi could be lapping Strongest Avenger here. See, just a few seconds between the two of them, not car lengths. Physically on track, although they're in very different positions. So Lumi taking an awful lot of curb there. Going through turn 7. See if we can spot this large puddle. There it is, starting to form at the apex of turn 10. Lumi just skirts the grass on the exit. Manages to get away with that one. Very close for him. See, he's taking nice, smooth arcing lines to the apexes here. Comes through the braking zone, through each corner. Nice and steady on the throttle coming through. Final turn, a little bit of lag there as it looked like the car was starting to understeer and break away from him. With the interpolation. So with that one. Turn 1 like in terms of live track puddles. It doesn't really look like there's too much. Like there's something on the outside corner. There's a slight river running across the width of the circuit. Turn 2. There between 3 and 4 there's a river running across the width of the track, and I think there's one here at the exit as well. Indeed there is. And his car certainly seems very, very jerky and moving left and right there. Jump to Otto Winkler and Stephen Curry. Battling once again. Stephen slightly defensive coming into turn 12 just to cover off any potential attack from the Porsche driver for the moment. This is the battle for 13th position. So having now dropped over a second off the back of Stephen Curry now. Going through turns 12 and 13. So he has dropped off a little bit there. Allen is still the only driver with a 10-second time penalty to his name. Tripp still holding pace for the moment. He's closing up onto the back of Otto Winkler, potentially using Allen as a bit of a pace marker here. And gaining seconds on the previous lap. Oh, Allen gone a little bit deep there through turn 4. That's allowed Tripp to go back ahead. And Otto Winkler actually very slow coming through 5 and 6. Potentially a mistake there. Tripp has gained that position. So he's now up into 14th place, and Otto Winkler now dropping down into P15. Now it's going to be Stephen Curry. That Tripp has got a hunt down. May have just seen that as well in the headlights of the car behind going through the apex of turn 7. That Tripp looks like he's on slick tyres, which isn't true. The material of the tyres isn't actually that we see isn't accurate to what the drivers are actually running. Tripp really hammering the inside curve there at the apex of 12. So yeah, despite it looking like he's got slick tyres on his car, he's actually running will be running wets. I would have thought. Oh, he just about managed to skirt it. Keep it out the wall there. Saw the sparks flick up though. He brushed the concrete barrier, and that's going to be him once again behind Alan on the approach down towards turn 1, turn 2. So you saw that Ticket Nash is fairly close to the back of As Turbo, and that's an awful lot of damage on Ticket Nash's car. Was that from this lap here? Quite interesting, he's got damage to the front left of his car and then also the rear right, so he must have gone into the wall or something quite hard in a couple of places. Not pitting here on this lap, so obviously the damage isn't severe enough to be impacting him there, although he's very wide on the exit of the final corner. Back well out of the throttle to avoid running out wide and into the wall there. Cost him an awful lot of time. Fast Turbo there on that lap, and yeah, 138.3. Surely the damage must have been picked up from that lap there, but I think the rain has pretty much stopped falling. There's still some droplets falling here and there. This will allow the track to start drying out here at this stage. Obviously the drivers will be looking to start think about considering a change onto the slick tyres. So that's potentially what Ticket Nash is doing here with the damage, is just holding out until he jumps to the slicks, so we can get the damage repaired there in that pit stop rather than having to do an extra additional pit stop. That looks like it is indeed Stephen Curry, who's had a spin on the final corner. Otto Winkler has also gone round as well, just in front of the strongest Avenger. Stephen Curry coming back to the track. Who is this that's coming through? Hopefully they managed to avoid Otto Winkler. It looked like they did. It was Godfather of Shift. Godfather of Shift there in P8. He's got Clank for company up alongside him, but Clank is a lap down, so Clank should concede the position here. Who would have thought? Nope. Clank goes ahead of Godfather of Shift. Potentially feeling like he's got the pace over the Porsche driver. Should let Godfather back through reasonably quickly if Godfather is continuing to put the laps in. As 134 for both of them. Although I think Godfather Shift probably had to lift out of the throttle a little bit to avoid Otto Winkler, who was parked right on the racing line. Godfather running out a little bit wide there. The exit of the chicane as well. Here comes Fat Worm. Listen down Trip at the moment. Getting closer. So we're kind of in and around now where drivers will be considering switching to the wet tyres because the conditions are at night time. It's the track isn't going to quite dry out. Isn't going to dry out quite as quickly as it would if it was in the daylight conditions. The track temperature will be a little bit cooler. Certainly seems like there's a number of puddles still around the track, still the odd droplet falling from the sky as well. There's a little bit of water running across the width of the track, but that will soon disappear. Likewise here, but there are a few puddles lurking in and around. Doesn't look too bad. Obviously the curbs going to be pretty wet. Back straight looks like it's still damp in a number of patches. Braking zone reasonably dry here, although there's a few puddles and some wet spots in and around there as well. Likewise coming into turn 8 and 9. Coming through quite quickly. Looks like the track has dried up pretty fast actually. But yeah, question is, are people going to be doing the final 23 laps on the wet tyres that they're currently running with, or will they be looking to jump to the pits and make the switch onto a set of slicks? Avengers managed to close up onto the back of WMDR Martin once again. Near the windscreen wiper going away on Strongest Avengers car, but obviously he sat in the spray of the Lamborghini in front. Half a second between these two. And so we're looking to try and slip on through as quickly as possible. It certainly seems like he's one of the fastest drivers out on the track on that previous lap. So he has been lapped by the race leader Lumi, who is on that back straight. Strongest has been lapped by one of the front runners. Looking to try and pick up the slipstream here of WMDR Martin, trying to go around the outside, coming into the braking zone. His car looked like he's sliding and skating around, but he looks like he's got the inside line coming into turn 8. This could be the position. No! WMDR Martin manages to hold and sweep it around the outside there and keeps that 6th place for the moment. And Strongest Avenger's gone and spun again, coming through turn 10, dropping the car. Needs to get the thing spun around fairly quick. He's gone and lost the position to Godfather of Shift. He's gone through. So Strongest now drops down into 8th place. As Turbo's too far back to being able to slip on past before Strongest Avenger recovers. But that is going to be creating some serious frustration for Strongest Avenger with that one. What is the points difference with the current position? So if Andrex was to finish in 4th place, where he currently is, he would pick up 33 points. Strongest Avenger is now down in 7th position. He will pick up 20 points. So a difference of 13 points in total. So if things were to finish the way they are, with that 13 points difference, Andrex will take the championship here in this race. You can really see that the number of drivers are really starting to struggle with these changing conditions now as well. Strongest Avenger really being one of those, running very deep there, going through turn 4. Still a few puddles here, there, in a number of places, which will make jumping onto the slick tyres quite difficult. So the drivers are going to have to try and find the wetter parts of the track. Oh, here we go. The first of the front runners to blink is Alan. He comes into the pit lane. See that Speedy Go is also retired from the race. There is his Lamborghini parked there in the pit stall. So Alan takes on the fuel that he's going to be needing here in this race. Ignore the animations of the pit crew. That's not actually matched up with the timing of the work being done on the car. See, the fuel is continuing to go in for the moment. Question is, will he be jumping onto a set of slick tyres as well? I imagine that he will do. There he goes, driving away. So here is our marker in terms of how bad the conditions are for the slicks. A little bit of tyre weaving there, a little wiggle of the tyres under the pit limiter. Very long pit lane here at Indianapolis. He comes up towards the pit exit line. There it is. So he gets released on the limiter, from the limiter. And then we go down the inside of the first corner, and we should be going over to the right hand side of that white line there, but because the track is so wet on the inside of the corner there, and no doubt he will be on the set of slick tyres, judging by that little excursion. He had pretty much no grip. Now he's dropped down as well into P10 as Sean Neves went through there. So Alan's got to try and stick to the dry line, or the racing line, as best as he possibly can here, and try and avoid the wetter parts of the circuit. You can see that he is struggling in a number of places. Let's ride on board with him, in fact, as we come on through. Just trying to find where those drier parts of the track actually are. Stephen Curry has come into the pit lane. He's staying well clear of the apex curb of turn 10 there, just to avoid any of the potential standing water. Looks like he's trying to stay clear of the usual dry line as well, where there's any potential rubber, just in case that's quite wet. And we can see turns 12, 13 and 14 are quite wet here and really quite difficult. You can see how much Alan's really having to tiptoe just to get through the final corner. The car breaking away and around it goes. Manages to keep the engine running without stalling. Hopefully he can get it turned around without the car coming up behind, who is going to be Tripp, getting impeded too much. And there Tripp goes up into that 10th position. Certainly seems that is too soon to be jumping to the slick tyres. Another driver also coming out of the pit lane here. Stephen Curry's in the pit lane. I heard another driver accelerating away, but Alan, yeah, now down into 11th place. It looked like it was As Turbo. In fact, there he is. Yeah, 158 on the previous lap. This will be his out lap. Alan's still only with the 10-second penalty, so that hasn't increased. Though Stephen Curry's now got a 10-second penalty as well, no doubt for speeding in the pit lane. So As Turbo's also made the jump onto the stick tyres. Key question is, how is he going to fare with these standing water and puddles and the wetter parts of the track? Certainly seems to be more comfortable than Alan so far here on his out lap, potentially just maintaining a little bit more heat. Track just being that little bit extra drier, but here we come into the very difficult and treacherous part. So let's see how As Turbo handles this. No doubt be treading very, very lightly. Oh, okay, As Turbo's coming into the pit lane. Interesting. Maybe he didn't actually get the tyres that he wanted, having to come into the pits again. Potentially he missed his pit box, seeing as his pit box is right there at the pit entry. Sean Neves is now hunting down Tico Nash. Just over a second between the two. Tico Nash with the damage as well. It's going to be critical for him and his race. See that he certainly seems to be a lot more comfortable in these wetter conditions at the moment. Pushing on through. Coming into the last couple of corners. So they're not going to be struggling quite as much as they're still on the wet tyres, so no issues for them. Sean Neves into the pit lane, no doubt is going to be in for the change onto a set of wets. Also just popping up here onto my mobile phone, the live stream of the SpaceX launch. So obviously that's happening tonight. The rocket's due to take off in about 7-8 minutes time. Where we are, fortunately, obviously, we're going to be missing this crucial moment in history. But at the same time, when we get asked by our kids what we were doing when SpaceX launched 2 astronauts into space, we can say we were doing round 10 of season 15 of the AOR Project Cars 2 GT3 Tier 1 League. The strongest Avengers now into the pit lane as well from P6. He'll be making a jump onto a set of slick tyres, taking on the fuel that he needs to go to the end of the race as well. Andrex is now up into he's up into P3 ahead of Jogurk. Jogurk been into the pit lane, or has he just had some troubles? 132 on the previous lap. 133 there on that previous lap. So the change of position must have happened a while ago. Strongest Avenger is back rolling and underway once again. Got 39 litres of fuel remaining. 4 for Jogurk, so I think he may potentially have the fuel to go the distance. Andrex looks like he should have the fuel to go the distance as well. Here comes Strongest Avenger. Disengaging the pit speed limiter. Running through the puddles on the inside down towards turn 1. Is he able to get it slowed down and turned through? Kept within the white line. Yes, indeed he does. So that's good for him. Nice and smooth pit exit there. See how he does and acclimatises to these conditions. We've got Trip just up in front by 2 seconds. So it only seems like there is going to be yeah, it only seems like there's going to be a bit more of a dry line starting to form. Oh, Eurogeek, has that actually been cancelled? I actually seen. I just went straight to the live stream rather than go in with it. Just don't want to look. Don't want to see tweets from 4 hours ago, 3 hours ago. I want to see tweets from the last few minutes. Oh, that's a shame. It's been put back to been put back and abandoned. But at least it means that for us here, allows us to continue on without having to worry about missing that key moment. So instead, yeah, Saturday, May the 30th is when the launch will be. Which will be cool. So yeah, thank you very much for highlighting that Eurogeek. It means I can now just purely focus here on the racing and commentary. See Strongest Avenger trying to stick to the dry parts of the circuit here. All going a little bit deeper. Managed just to get it back up. You can see he's starting to catch Trip a fair amount as well. Oh, that's a spin for Lumi. That was Lumi who's gone around there. Going through turns 8 and 9. Potentially just starting to struggle now on the wet tyres. I'm pretty sure he has not been into the pit lane as of yet. So potentially just overheating the rubber on his Lamborghini there. It's coming through the damper part of the circuit. Is he going to come into the pit lane or is he going to continue on round? He's continuing on round. I think this final corner here is just a little bit too difficult for the guys on the slick tyres at the moment. Likewise with the start-finish straight. Although having said that, Strongest Avenger, the fastest man out on the circuit at the moment with a 129.4. So the slick tyres certainly seem to be quicker than the wets despite the final 3 turns. So that is going to be very, very interesting. You can also see as well, the sky is starting to get a little bit lighter. The Strongest Avenger is right there on the rear bumper of the Lamborghini in front. Needs to try and stay out of the spray and out the wetter parts of the circuit, whereas obviously Trip is going to be looking for the spray to try and cool down the tyres as much as he possibly can. Strongest Avenger's got the windscreen wiper going just to clear the water that's being flicked up onto the car from the Lamborghini in front. But yeah, we're starting to come towards dawn. It's going to help the conditions clear up a little bit more as Strongest Avenger's got a much better run coming off the exit of turn 10, coming through turn 11. He's got the inside line. Now he's coming into the final few corners. He's going to get the move done and dusted here, but then he comes to the wet part of the track. This is where Trip can quite easily come back at him if he can find the grip. Strongest Avenger's just got to try and hold on to it and tread carefully through this final corner. Certainly seems like he's able to push through there, though, a lot more easily than he was just a few laps ago, and he does hold on to that 6th position. So here we go then, we're right into the transition period and the switch from the wet tyres to the dry tyres as Ticker Nash is into the pit lane to get his car repaired and also top up on the fuel that he needs and change the tyres. Strongest Avenger, what can he do? How much of this race can he recover? Can he close back up and get up onto the rear end of Andrex? Will he be able to leapfrog Andrex here in this race and finish ahead of him? I guess the first question that we should actually be asking is whether he can negate the points difference between himself and Andrex here in this race to keep the championship fight alive. As things currently stand, with Andrex in 3rd place, he'll be picking up a total of 38 points. With Strongest Avenger, if he was to finish in 6th position, he would end up picking 24 points. So the gap too big between the two for the moment. I think if Strongest Avenger is going to keep this championship fight alive, if Andrex was to finish in 3rd position, Strongest Avenger would need to finish in 5th place. At the moment, he's 47 seconds off the back of WMDR Martin with just 11 laps remaining. Going to be a big ask to get that 5th position, but Andrex did tell me that towards the end of the race, the last 4 or 5 laps, the wet tyres really do start to struggle, especially with the track temperature will be starting to rise once the sun peaks above the horizon. Obviously with Strongest Avenger there with a 27.8 on the previous fastest lap, he's made the gamble going onto the slick tyres, setting the faster laps here in this race. He is now quite a long way off the back of the drivers that he needs to catch up in front. Bit of a squirm there from the Acura driver coming off the exit of the final corner. 27.0. 5.6 seconds taken out of WMDR Martin on the previous lap. I'm sure you guys in the live chat can probably work out how much time he needs to be gaining per lap in order to be able to get onto the back of WMDR Martin. Seeing here that As Turbo is closing up onto the back of Sean Neves. Both of these drivers I'm pretty sure have been into the pit lane to switch onto the drier tyres. I know that As Turbo certainly has. I think clocked that Sean Neves jumped onto set of slicks as well. Certainly seems like the last few corners are certainly drying a fair amount more. There are certainly some drier patches starting to form and some drier lines in a couple of places. Oh, there's a big puddle that runs across the width of the circuit there that almost caught As Turbo out, but he's having a look here at Sean Neves as we're coming down on the run towards turn 1. Sean Neves lifting out of the throttle though, allowing As Turbo to take the inside line and gain the position. So As Turbo now up into 9th position. Sean Neves really not putting up too much of a fight there and letting him go on through. Conditions certainly getting much lighter now. I'm pretty sure the sun is going to be at or above the horizon. We're into, well, the shadows seem really soft for the moment, so I think the sun hasn't quite peeked over the horizon yet as we're going into the hazy conditions. interesting seeing these puddles spanning the width of the track. Yeah, it certainly seems like there's a bit of a peachy orangey hue starting to form on the horizon. Looking out towards turn 8 and turn 10. Yeah. Very unfortunate for a number of the drivers I'm seeing here in the live chat having retired. October 128 on the previous lap, strongest previous lap, 130.2. Here we go. Now we can start to see the sun peeking up above the horizon. The orange light starts to come in. He's the strongest Avenger, in fact. 40 seconds now off the back of WMDR Martin, but he's got traffic there in front. That was Alan taking a trip across the grass. He's got Yogurt here in front of him that he's trying to unlap himself from. That puddle that runs across the width of the circuit there through the final turn, really troubling a number of the drivers. See Alan going as far over to the right hand side of the circuit, drive as right as he possibly can to try and find the wetter parts of the track, try and cool the tyres. Strongest Avenger unlaps himself from Jorgurk. Jorgurk not too worried and fussed about that, just letting him go on through. Continues to press on for the moment. In a pretty comfortable 4th position. 15 seconds off the back of Andrex. 34 seconds ahead of WMDR Martin. This is the man that we're trying to keep an eye on here. Though S Turbo is caught up onto the back of Clank, so this is going to be a battle for position. Difference in tyres once again. Turbo on the slicks. Clank still on the wet tyres. There is that big puddle that runs across the width of the track that the drivers are having to contend with. And yeah, it's very much like a river. Runs across the width of the track there. As Turbo taking that 8th position as we come into the apex of turn 1. Blinded by the sun now above the horizon. This is going to help the guys who are on the slick tyres even more to be continuing to dry the circuit out. Will also be bringing the track temperature up as well, which will make it even more difficult for those drivers who are still on the wets. Stephen Curry here trying to find a way past Fatworm. Pretty sure our lead coordinator has made the switch onto the set of dry tyres. He's looking down the inside, coming into turn 12. Contact between the two. Stephen Curry goes way deep under braking there as he was trying to slow the car down. Found the wetter part of the circuit as Fatworm was going defensive. He makes a trip across the gravel. He's going to concede the position and rejoin back behind him once again in the last position here of P15. Those two door panel rubbing as they were coming into the braking zone, and then yeah, outbraking themselves on the wet surface. Drawn Nerves is now closed up onto the back of Clank fairly quickly. Strongest Avenger down in the 128s once again. WMDR Martin is starting to pick his pace up a little bit as well. Fairly close here between these two. Oh, Stephen Curry's managed to get past Fatworm pretty quickly through turns 1, 2 and 3 and 4. And now finds himself up in P14 and Fatworm is now down into P15. We can see WMDR Martin there right over to the right hand side of the circuit there, trying to find the wetter part to try and cool those wet tyres off as much as he possibly can. Strongest Avenger back into the 127s. 30 odd seconds still to catch, and only 6 to 7 laps remaining. I don't think it is going to be close enough. I don't think he's going to be close enough to get that 5th position, which would mean he would unfortunately be finishing, well, certainly not in P1. The championship will be going to Andrex. That is unless Strongest Avenger can get himself up into that 5th position. He needs that. And I think even if Andrex drops down into 4th place, points difference is going to be too big. 33 to 24. Oh no, that'll be 9 points. 9 points difference there between that. So yeah, either Strongest Avenger needs to come in 5th position, or Andrex needs to drop down and finish in 4th. But if he is to remain as he is in that 3rd place at the moment, then Andrex will be wrapping up the title here in Season 15 and will be crowned Season 15 GT3 champion. Be really quite surprising for him. Will no doubt make his week. Continuing to set solid lap times at the moment. Despite the wet and dry conditions, he's got Clank there on the inside, gives plenty of room, not taking any risk. Potential contact there. In fact, Strongest Avenger can actually see Andrex on track up in front of him. They're coming through. Turns 10 and 11 there. WMDR Martin's coming towards the start-finish line. Looks like he's gone and lost a whole bunch of time here on this lap. Yes, indeed. Look at that. 10 seconds to his previous lap. This could be the break that Strongest Avenger actually needs. If he can continue to take 5 seconds out of Strong... Oh no! Just as I say that, he goes and spins, coming through the penultimate turn. Just a little bit too much standing water. Gap is starting to increase once again. That's going to be so frustrating for Strongest Avenger. Car twitching as he goes through the river through the final turn. He comes across the line. What is his lap time? 33.7. So 7 seconds taken out on the previous lap. We've got the best part of 4 laps remaining, so he needs to be basically banging in 6 to 7 seconds a lap faster than WMDR Martin to close up and be in with a chance of trying to take that 5th position away at the checkered flag. He really needs to extract every last little bit of pace that he can possibly get out of that car. WMDR Martin will be continuing to play it safe and trying to obviously bring the car home. I'm not sure if he'll be aware of the current situation in terms of the overall Drivers' Championship, but he looks pretty comfortable in terms of fuel here for this race as well, with that 19.5 litres remaining. So he's not going to be troubled there. Comes across the line, back into the 33s. Interesting, we've got Tick and Nash, Sean Ness, fairly close to one another, just in the background of the shot that we saw there with WMDR Martin. Strongest Avenger with a much smoother run that time through the penultimate turn. Makes his way through the river. What's his lap time going to be this time round? 28.1, so 6 seconds, 6.5 seconds taken on the previous lap. WMDR Martin looks like he's had a fairly trouble-free first sector. And through sector 2 at the moment. This is where there's a few damp patches and him on the wet tyres. Things should be all good for him there, but we're very much into the realm where the wet tyres will be struggling for overall grip. Strongest Avenger continuing to close that gap down. He's got it within 20 seconds now. Here he comes coming into, he's into the last sector. Where's Andrex? What's happening with him? Well, that's Tick and Nash spinning off the exit of turn 10 there. Andrex is continuing for the moment. He's 36 seconds off the back of Dynamite Alive. 30 seconds ahead of Yorgok. That's quite close to the wall there. Comes Martin though to the line. 32.9 this time round. Strongest Avenger coming into the penultimate turn. He's got some traffic up in front in the form of Clank. He's going to be hoping that Clank stays out of the way coming through the final corner. Indeed he does. Make strongest Avenger's line through the final turn a fair bit tighter than he would like it to be. It's going to cost him some time here. So again another 28.0. So nearly 5 seconds taken out of him on that previous lap. He needs to keep hammering in those times if he wants that chance of trying to catch WMDR Martin. But of course, forgetting that Lumi has actually lapped Strongest Avenger and WMDR Martin for that matter as well. So this is the final lap of the race. Unless WMDR Martin has some incident in either the lap that he's on or the next lap that he begins, he should be pretty safe. Lumi's really struggling with the wet tyres. As we can see, Sub Conan is all over the back of him at the moment here. Obviously a lap down. Sub Conan's he's 20 seconds off the back of Tikanash, so there's no point in Lumi letting him go on through. Tikanash and Clank are battling away for position at the moment. WMDR Martin across the line with another 32.5. Here comes Strongest Avenger in the final sector. Coming into the final turn now. Trying to line himself up for the best possible run. Onto the start-finish straight. Gap 15 seconds between the two. 4.5 seconds taken out on the previous lap. You can obviously see Andrex there up in front of him, but Lumi is coming into turn 12 now. He's in the final sector on his final lap. Coming through, kicking up the spray through the wet conditions, or the wet patches on the track. He comes round the final corner and he'll be coming across the start-finish line to pick up the race win here in round 10. He'll be very happy with that. Sub Conan comes across the line for P12. Alan, he comes out the final 12 now. Final turn now. Sorry, Dynamite Alive. Sorry, comes out the final turn. Well, Alan did as well, to be fair. But Dynamite Alive picks up P2. Alan comes across the line in P14. Here is Andrex. He's just come into the final sector. Now, where is WMDR Martin? He's coming through the last couple of corners. Strongest Avenger, not close enough, not able to do it. Few too many mistakes and few too many spins. Or what could have been if he didn't have those. WMDR Martin coming across the line and hard into the wall for 5th position. Yogurt has already come across the line for P4. Here comes Andrex though, out the final turn. He is going to be your Season 15 champion. Picks up P3, the final step of the podium, but he has done enough to be the winner of Season 15 of the Apex Online Racing Project Cars 2 GT3 Tier 1 PC League. Martin, we've seen him come across the line. Strongest Avenger comes home in P6. That means that he's going to jump ahead of Inky Chris for P2, but both him and Inky Chris are now out of the championship running, and it's a battle between the two of them for 2nd position in the championship standings. So here is your final confirmation with Lumi taking the race win, and if I'm not mistaken, it looks like he also picks up the fastest lap of the race as well, so we'll get the additional 1 bonus point. Dynamite Alive comes home in 2nd with Andrex in P3. Yorguk there in P4 with WMDR Martin in P5. Strongest Avenger comes home in P6 with Trip in P7. As Turbo came home in P8 with P9 going to Sean Nevs. Tikanash in P10. Plank in P11. Sub Conan in P12. P13 goes to Fat One. P14 was taken by Alan. P15 was Stephen Curry. And then Inky Chris comes home in P16. And my god, we've actually got quite a few people in the ready for interview room. But not all of them are Tier 1 drivers. Quite a few of them are actually Tier 2 drivers that I see. So we shall get our very first man here into the commentary box with us for an interview. And it is our Season 15 champion, Andrex. congratulations. You have done it. You have done enough to take the championship here in this round. Managed to outscore Strongest Avenger by enough points. No doubt you're going to be absolutely ecstatic and over the moon with that.
Oh my god! What? Oh, that is unreal. Oh man. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, I'm speechless.
Tell us, try to tell us about your race.
Yeah, well, I guess it was just play safe. I guess the dry session at the start, just kind of try and get through as much traffic as possible. Everyone was playing quite nicely out there, so spot on, perfect. I managed to get through a lot of the field. To be fair, I think they were well inside the top 10 anyway. I think 6th or something like that before even the rain came. So I thought I'd be fairly decent in the wet stuff. Home weather advantage, I guess, being Scottish. That's what I do, drive in the rain. But yeah, it was just the car setup was kind of built with the strategy of just pitting for the wets for that rain session, and having the option to either not pit for slicks at the end or pit. Excuse me. But so it was a kind of react to what other people were doing, and just kind of see. But I had to kind of look after the tires a fair amount, so that they could last if I was going down that route. The original plan was to come in and pit and switch, um, and that dry line seemed to come in very early compared to the sort of practice session last night. So I was about to twitch and go in. I just thought, we'll just stay out. Obviously, some people had already gone in, and I'd caught up with them, and then got past them, and then they'd kind of got settled down, and then they got past me again. So it was clear that it was obviously a lot quicker per lap, but obviously it's the cost of a full pit stop that you've got to take into account, as well as they're not instant. They're about 5 or 6 seconds, potentially a lap quicker at the end. But it's not always that 5 or 6 seconds a lap quicker, so it's a kind of gradual process of them getting quicker. So yeah, it was a kind of calculated risk of playing safe in the wet stuff, staying out on the wets, knowing that at the end of the session, of the dry session, when it's dry track and you're on very worn, wet tires, that's when it starts to get rather sketchy out on track. But I mean, I build safe setups. I build cars that I can drive comfortably, that are not on the edge and are not slidey, which obviously kind of seems to work, having stability when it's changeable weather conditions. So yeah, well, it was kind of down to what other people were having issues with, I guess. I didn't really know what my pace was going to be completely directly compared to other people, so it's just a case of do your own thing, run your own laps, and kind of see where you come out. I had no issues, no accidents, no problems with anyone else. Traffic was good, was very kind. Pit stop went to plan, and I think the strategy was probably the right call to stay on the wets. So yeah, it just went perfect. But I mean, I was considering trying to do maths in my head about championship, but I was like, well, there's nothing I can. I just need to get this done and get as many points as I can tonight, and then we'll worry about the championship next week. But that's awesome. I'm amazed.
Yeah, I think Strongest Avenger didn't have the best of races. He had a number of mistakes and stuff, which has obviously dropped him quite a bit further down the field than he probably would have liked to have been. He was catching WMDR Martin at quite a good rate, and there was one lap where Martin had I think must have had a spin because he lost a good 10 seconds. But
so easy to do. I mean,
Yeah,
the little puddles um, are just seriously nasty at times. You just need to catch one slightly wrong. Um, I never had any full on spins. I had a couple of kind of slidey moments and kind of not quite half spins, but I lost it very sideways and losing a lot of time out of it. But yeah, there was no real problems. So, but I was clear that it was catching a lot of people out there.
yeah.
Um, I saw Inky has obviously had an issue quite early on. Saw him in the pits. That made me sad seeing him in the pits retired. Um, but then yeah, it was a case of just like, well, I wonder where strongest was because I couldn't see him on my relative board. And I was like,
He was just
well,
behind you.
uh,
Actually,
yeah,
physically on track. He
he
was
was
just
at the end
behind
there.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think he pitted for the slicks.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, it's just one of those things. I guess just keep it clean and out of trouble, and bring it home, and just kind of do the best you can. Just don't worry. You can't do anything about anyone else's race. Um, I wouldn't wish a bad race on anyone else, but it obviously helps.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, that's awesome. But grats to the guys at the front. They were just too good. But I never even dreamed of a podium tonight. That's again. I mean, that's just amazing. Um,
Well, if you
I tend to do all right with the coming through traffic, the kind of reverse grid stuff. I kind of seem to be able to get through traffic quite well. And
yeah.
the rain, I seem to do well in the wet. So it was a kind of perfect race for me to do about as well as I ever could. So yeah, champion.
Yeah, well, if you didn't get the podium and you came home in fourth, you would not be champion here in this race. There would be uh, 48 points between you and Strongest Avenger going into the final round. So it was near enough yours for the taking here coming into this round. You just basically just needed to finish with a decent all of points, and you would have got it at either in this one or the next one. But yeah, congratulations for obviously a very consistent season, picking up two race wins. Got a second place. That was your third position, and then your worst result was P7, which you got in 2 races.
Race one, I think. Yeah, and another one later on. Yeah,
Um,
as well. Yeah. It's just full of surprises. I mean, I never even dreamed of a podium this season at all. Um, and it was just a case of just do the races and have fun and see where you come. If I finish in the top 10, I'd be quite chuffed.
yeah,
So that's just awesome.
yeah. Well, congratulations, very well deserved for you, sir. One very quick final question: What are you going to be drinking in celebration?
I don't know, but I've got a feeling I might now be honour bound to drive the Aston Martin for next season. I kind of said to myself, if I do really well in this championship this season, I'll um I'll harm myself, do self harm, and drive the Aston next season. It's taken 15 seasons for me to get a championship in here,
Eh,
so
it might be a good one
well,
if the calendar's kind.
if the calendar's good, we'll have to kind of pay some coordinators a healthy little bung here and there, and try and get all the fast tracks.
Yeah. But yes, congratulations, mate. Very well deserved. I'll let you enjoy your evening with your whiskey, champagne, tea, coffee, water,
That's
whatever
very
you drink.
stereotypical, going for the whiskey there, sir.
Well, that's not
Oh.
actually me. Speedy Go said in the live stream chat, so it'll be whiskey night. I hope.
I might have a wee dram.
Yeah. So that's why I asked. That's why that's why I asked what the drink of choice would be.
Fair play.
Yeah. I'll
Cool. Cheers.
let you enjoy, and we'll get some of the other guys in. So thanks and
Cheers,
congratulations once
guys.
again,
Thanks
mate.
for watching, everybody, and awesome commentary as well, I'm sure. I look forward to the stream as always. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye bye. All right, our second man into the commentary box. We'll get our race winner in. Lumi, how was that race for you, man? Lumi, you there?
Sorry.
Oh, you are there.
The push
Excellent.
talk. The push talk. I'm getting used to it.
No worries. Well, congratulations on yet again another fantastic result, another win. How was that race for you?
It was nearly perfect, but I spun on my own
I
once, and then I
saw.
also got collected by a back marker.
Oh, I
But
didn't see that.
the pace was very good.
Yeah, I was gonna say we did see your spin. We managed to pick that up at one point. I think we
I
were
was
watching
hoping
someone
you weren't
else.
seeing the
Yeah, I
spin.
think we were watching someone else at the time, and you just happened to be in shot, and I saw you go round, so I immediately jumped
Tragic.
to you. So yeah, you didn't get away with that one, unfortunately. But yeah, obviously we got the rerun of Azure Circuit next week. Have you done much practice there? How are you feeling going into that
No,
round?
I've never driven there. I don't. These tracks are very alien to me. I've never sort of. They're not very mainstream, so I don't really know them that.
Sorry, I think you cut out at the end. And
I was saying like these tracks I'm not very comfortable with, so I have to do quite a few practice before the race, but not too much.
yeah, of course. And then next season, you potentially thinking of coming back for season 16, considering your pace here
I
in this
think
one?
so.
Certainly seemed like a
Yeah, I
very
think that'll be fun.
strong contender for the championship on that one. I think you and Dynamite Alive would be a pretty good
Yeah,
season-long battle.
yeah, it was good. I got like a really good start, and I think that it just sort of that helped me a lot. And
Yeah, that's good. Well, I'm going to let you enjoy the rest of your evening and try and
thank you.
squeeze in one more driver. But obviously, congratulations here for a race win. And I look forward to seeing what you can pull out of the bag for the Azure Circuit next week.
Cheers. See ya.
Cheersy, bye. Right, we'll get one last driver in. We'll get ourselves WNDR Martin. Question for you, sir. Were you very much aware of how much of a hand you had in the championship this evening?
No, not really. I'm just kind of looking to consolidate my eighth place, so content with that.
Yes. Well, you played a well. You were basically the key factor in um, allowing Andrex to come away with the championship this evening, as Strongest Avenger was trying to hunt you down and was doing so at a fair rate per lap. If you managed to get your position, it would have been able to keep the title fight alive. Alternatively, if Andrex dropped a position, then it wouldn't have mattered. But the fact that you stayed out on wets, am I correct?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, obviously that kept kept you in contention for obviously a good result with the fifth place, but also allowed Andrex to take away the win. How did the rest of your race go? Saw various bits of it at various points, number of overtakes.
For one, I'm a bit disappointed he hasn't thanked me yet. I mean, come on, man. But yeah, for my race was I think I had like probably about 4 or 5, maybe even 6 spins, and moments I lost the car. I just managed to keep it out of the wall, not hit anyone else. Had a few close calls when the guys on slicks were unlapping themselves towards the end. Um, Overall, I think I had a few nice passes towards the start, but then it just kind of turned into a lonely race of attrition.
Yeah. Was there much difference between well, actually, firstly, did you do the practice race last night?
I did the first 7 laps of it or so, and I was in second place when my computer just melted.
Oh, okay. Well, the question I was going to ask is going to be pretty much irrelevant then, which was if there was much difference between the conditions here this evening and last night. But I'm guessing you obviously practiced for the change in wet conditions and everything.
I didn't do any weather practice except for maybe like a lap or 5 in a lobby that Andrix had up before the practice race yesterday. For the rest, the start of this race, I think the car was a lot more unstable compared to the practice race, at least the laps that I did. But just managed to just be a bit careful. I did get one little bump from the rear, and I think at one point I had to brake to make sure I didn't hit someone else in turn one. But yeah, overall, it was more difficult than the practice race.
Yes, I'm just having a look as well at your, bear with me a second, your points that you picked up from this race here. So you would have picked up 28 points for that 5th position. You are 32, 35 off the back of Speedy Go, who didn't finish the race. So, yeah, you're obviously helping consolidate P8, but also closing up on the back of actually both Fubar and Speedy Go, because Fubar's only 2 points off the back of Fubar, which will mean that you're 7 or 8 points.
And how far
back?
behind me are Loom and Dynamite?
That's a question. Obviously, Lumi picked up 50 points. Yeah, 40 points here in this race. Is it 40 or 50?
I think 50. I'm not quite sure though.
Yeah, it's 50. So he's what? 94 plus 50, so it'll be 44. You're still safe at the moment. You're still ahead of him, but yeah, he's got potential to leapfrog you in the next race at Azure Circuit, the rerun there. But you've also got the potential to jump Speedy Go and Fubar. Do you think you could possibly do it?
I doubt it because I had my latest disconnect at one of my best tracks, and the Monaco race is really extremely hard to do on a pad because, for one, the corners are a bit different in this game compared to some other games for this track. Um, and with the pad, you also just don't have the same reaction speed for slow corners. Like you can't just go left right like you could with a wheel.
That is a good point. That's very true. Well, hopefully you can find a setup or something that allows you to basically improve your car's reaction time, as it were. But
Yeah,
yeah,
the car was all over the place and the first time we raced there. It's just I managed to find a setup to make it more or less stable, but it was still slow as heck.
yeah. Hopefully you can get the. Hopefully you can find a happy medium either way, and hopefully you can get a decent result. But obviously, congratulations on P5 this evening. It's a good, solid result for you. Actually, I'm just going to double check something real quick.
Thank you very much.
And that is no, it's not. It's not your best result of the season because you had a P2 at Germany when you
Yeah, totally.
kind of lucked into that one, but still very strong result. Your next second best result was 2 P4s in race 2 of round 2 and round 3. Scored a P4 there as well, but still good haul of points.
Yep, definitely. I'm very happy with that. I mean, if you would have told me a couple of seasons ago that I'd be in the top 10 of Tier 1, I definitely wouldn't have believed you.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you continue to improve, and we shall see you back next season potentially.
Yeah, definitely hope so. I'm not quite sure when we're organizing it, but I should be there.
Excellent. Very glad to hear. Well, we'll let you head off and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you very much for coming and chat to us.
Yep, good evening. See ya.
Cheers, man. Bye. So yes, that is going to be it here for round 10 of the AOR Project Cars 2 GT3 Tier 1 Season 15 League. We have a new champion in the form of a Scotsman, Andrex, who has been a veteran here in the Project Cars 2 League and also the Project Cars 1 League as well. He's been around since the very early season and has competed in nearly every single season up to date, I believe. I think there may only have been one that he ended up missing, but with the consistency that he has had over the course of the season, he is obviously a very fitting winner, and it is a great honour to basically crown him as the champion this time round. Next week, as we mentioned, we have the rerun of round 7 Azure Circuit. So make sure you tune in once again, 8 PM British summertime for that one. If you're new here to the Apex Online Racing YouTube channel, then please consider subscribing. It'll be very much appreciated. And if you enjoyed this evening's live stream, or if you're watching this back on the VOD and you are enjoying it, please give it a thumbs up because that does help out the video and getting more people viewing it as well. Other than that, though, thank you very much for tuning in. My name has been Yorkie065. You can find my social media links in the description below. But until next week, have fun, stay safe, and take care.